Hello everyone, this is Russ Bucher from ControlMyNikon and TetherScript, and I'd like to show you the most recent version of ControlMyNikon at version 5.7.87.90. And we just released this on August the 9th, 2021. So you'll notice right off the bat, it looks a little bit different. We've been upgrading things and modifying and adding new bodies and a whole bunch of new stuff. So first of all, I want to thank you beta testers for, well, testing this for us. And based on your feedback, we made some tweaks, and a lot of the new features and things we fixed here are all based on user feedback. We value your input and we listen to it always, and we keep trying to improve the product based on that. So again, thank you so much. Okay, so first thing about this version is you get a new trial period. So if you tried a previous version of ControlMyNikon and maybe you wanted to wait for a newer version, maybe for newer body support, you can download this version and you'll find that it has a new trial period. So you can see the version here in the About screen. And you notice it doesn't say ControlMyNikon in the version number up top anymore. So you can see we've tweaked the layout a little bit, and really we're kind of evolving it towards more of a touch-related user interface. And that's going to happen over the next, could be several different versions. So we'll see how it goes. It'll still always support the mouse and keyboard though. Okay, so first of all, bodies. We've added some more Z bodies. Go down here. You see now there's a Z5, a Z7 II, Z6 II, and we'll go up to see there's now a D6, and a D780. Now for the new Z6 II and Z7 II, you'll need to download and install the latest firmware upgrade for the Z6 II and Z7 II, and you can get that from Nikon. Okay, so now we've also added some support for older bodies, and the most recent versions, this has kind of been happening over the past couple of years, such as the D40 and the D40X, the D60, the D80, and D200. Well, Nikon doesn't release new SDKs or software development kits for these anymore. And they haven't for quite some time. So these are becoming more and more less compatible with Windows 10, the most recent releases of Windows 10. So what we've done is included some old versions of their SDK libraries, and we've had more success connecting to those. If you're using Windows 7 or 8 or 8.1, then you don't need to do anything different. But if Windows 10, then what you might need to do is go to here, Tools, Preferences, under Connection, and then here it says, use the old Nikon SDK for old versions of these bodies. And when you do that, then when you try and connect to those bodies, you're going to use those older versions of DLLs, and hopefully you'll have better luck connecting. At some point, I'm sure Nikon's just going to kill off these altogether, these bodies, and support in Windows 10. But who knows when that'll be. So the user interface has no title bar caption anymore. And if you go and see down the lower left here, there used to be a battery indicator. I'm going to go ahead and connect to a D800 here. And the battery indicator is now in the upper right-hand corner. And this will show a percentage. This D800 is on external power, so it says EXT. Otherwise, you'll see the percentage up here. And we just wanted to gain some vertical screen real estate here. So the download is also missing here as well, because there was a place to see the progress of the download. You'll actually see that up here later on. There's a tiny little status bar will appear under the menu and disappear when it's no longer downloading. We also changed the main tab display a little bit here. So we have body, we have layers for live view. And before, if you start asking more, adding more and more things like metadata, and let's say the new one, ask, it would just, you'd have a little scroll bar here, be tough to see. Now they just stack like this. Now, when you try to minimize the screen, there's a bit of a delay. It tries to be a bit more graceful, so I'm going to minimize it here. Now I'm going to maximize it. You'll see it kind of just delays a little bit and fades in. So just a slight delay. Otherwise, you see this image resizing all the time. And this image here is the new default image in ControlMyNikon when you install it. This is an image I captured with ControlMyNikon, I think version 4.3 some years back, and of a flower, and this is a result of a stack, and stacked using Zerine Stacker. Now the profile name used to be down here in the lower left as well, and you'll see now whatever profile you're on will be listed here instead. So I'm going to double click on test, and you can see here now it says test. Themes, we changed this a little bit. This was a little on the buggy side and it had some problems, so now the default theme is Garnet 2. It used to be Graphite, and this gives, I think, a nicer, darker looking theme. But you know, you have your option. You could pick any of these themes that you like. And you'll notice that when I change these, they don't look much different. For example, Deep, it's all gray. It's because I've got the saturation turned down. So if you want to change the hue or saturation or brightness, you adjust them and then hit Apply Changes. I'm going to change this color a little bit. One of the favorites is Matrix. And then to save it, you just go like this. And now when you start up ControlMyNikon again, you'll have this theme. So I'm going to go back and change it back to what it was. And you can hit use defaults here, and it's going to bring you back to the theme that is used when you install, which is a lower saturation. And I'm going to bring the brightness down a little bit as well. Sometimes you may not want a theme to compete with the image you're looking at here. You just kind of want it to fade into the background. And that's really the purpose of themes. There's so many different themes here, you can adjust it and find the one that you know is going to work well. Okay, let's take a look at the image browser here. So on the image browser, and I'm just going to flip to another set of images here. Here's the images that were used to create that stack. I'm just going to cycle through them, and you can see the focus stacking is capturing at varying depth at the same depth of field, however, further at varying distances from the camera. And these are all exported to Zerine Stacker, which is going to stack these all into one nice final image. So I'm just going to leave this right here. Now let's take a look in the upper right hand corner here. Before, we used to have separate tabs for the histogram, EXIF, and IPTC data, and the files that used to be separate, right? So, but we didn't want people to have to flip back and forth on these as much. And I'm just going to turn off the tooltips here. So now histogram is here, and you can adjust the height, and in fact, you can even hide it if you want to. The EXIF, same thing. You'll note that this also shows a shutter count for the image. This is a Nikon shutter count. And we have the IPTC data, of which there isn't any because we didn't enter any. Normally you'd enter IPTC data in the metadata tab, or perhaps batch data entry, or the new feature using the Ask feature. We're going to take a look at that. And we tweaked the searching here so it's a bit more responsive and easier to use. So that's that change there. And you know, you can always move this out of the way. In fact, if you move it all the way to the right, you can essentially hide it and drag it back when you need it. Histogram now, when you left click on it, it shows the name of the channel instead of changing color itself. And you can see it overwrites the data here on over top of the graph and makes it a little bit easier to read. So we'll go back to luminosity. Now there used to be a status bar at the bottom of the image browser which showed you the name of the current image you're on. You could see it right here. However, you can activate this here. If I say show toggle path, it's going to show it right here. Image 12 of 41 in this folder, and it shows the full path and the file name. I'm just going to hide this here, and we're going to toggle the path. And we also have a toolbar. So if you don't like to have to access things on the menu here, you go to toolbar. Let's see, where is it? There it is. And so now you can do the rotation, turn the magnifier on when you need it, zoom in and out with a magnifier, or you can use your mouse wheel. Now, this isn't just zooming in on the image as it's displayed on the screen, it's actually zooming in on the source file. So because you're only showing maybe 1000 by 800 image here, where it could be like a 6 by 4000 image from your camera, this zooming in is looking at the 6 by 4000 image. And you can click on viewer to bring up a secondary viewer. So now when you select an image here, it also changes on the viewer. And you can put that on a different monitor. Okay, I'm going to hide this toolbar. Now, the bigger changes here are in the file handling. So we haven't touched this file handling logic in years, it seems. And one thing that has always really been needed is to try and simulate what the final file name is going to look like, and we have that here. So whenever you change this into the folder name or the file name, it's going to change this test name. And that's just an example of what it's going to look like when you actually save an image. So let's try to save an image now. Let's go to live view and see what I have under the camera. I have a circuit board, right? Okay, so this just happens to be something I was working on recently. I'm going to go to the layers, and you can see I have focus peaking enabled to show what's currently in focus. And it's going to make that a bit more selective. Focus peaking is in red. I can double click here to the focus. Okay, so, but I'm going to turn that off. I also have the exposure cycling here. This is really indicating that there's an area here that is either overexposed or underexposed. And this is, I'm not going to worry about it for now. Normally I'd adjust my lighting or maybe a shutter speed here or ISO to ensure that I wasn't blowing anything out or losing it on the dark end and making it too black. So I'm going to turn that off as well. Okay, so I'm going to capture an image. And now watch underneath this menu here, you'll see the file transfer. It's going to happen real fast. See, it's just snipped by there real fast. So try another one. And that's all you'll see. Now it'll stay there longer if you're transferring a NEF or a TIFF, but it's no longer in the lower left-hand corner. It is up here. And you'll see it. You'll know it's transferring because you'll see the menu jiggling a little bit. Okay, let's go back to the browser, and you can see now that in the images/test folder that we have captured these different images. We have the concept of tokens in our folder, file names, and metadata. So you may be familiar with this, but it basically lets you do things like inject counters or date times. I'm just going to bring up some examples here. Right here, under the file name, you could put in date times or the main counter, which I have now, batch workflow tokens, or this. So let's say I didn't want a file name counter. I could just put date time here instead. Okay. And I'll shoot. And you can see how it's changed to a date and time file name. I'm going to put the main counter back. And as always, you can change the main counter right here. And we've also added this to metadata. So here, you can inject batch workflow information or from the Ask tab. So the Ask tab is a new thing. And, you know, recently I inherited 4,000 or 5,000 negatives that I needed to scan in ControlMyNikon. And we have a lot of users who use ControlMyNikon for scanning. And God bless them. I mean, it is a lot of work to line everything up and remove the dust and everything and get it just right. But I needed a easy way to enter information when I am scanning a negative and to enter information into the IPTC or the file names. And I found that entering it through the metadata and or through batch workflows was a little bit too tedious. I didn't want to upload a database for this. I just wanted to enter the information, press the shoot button, capture it several times I wanted, and then update the information and then shoot again. And that's what we've accomplished here. So I'm just going to, for now, hide the live view layers and bring up the ask. And the ask is right here. Okay, so let's say I'm shooting this image here. I'm going to just expand this IPTC a little bit because this is where the information is going to show up. Now, if I wanted to, I could, under this test folder, I could add an ask token. So I'm going to go here and go to ask, say ask number 1. Okay. And so that's basically going to be a folder name. I'm going to continue using a counter, but on the metadata for the, say, the description, I'm going to go ask tab 2. And you could type these in if you wanted to. And for keywords, I'm going to go ask 3. Okay. Now I'm going to save this profile because that ask information and these file and folder name definitions are stored in your profile. So now let's see what's happening in ask. Nothing. You need to go down here and click on rebuild list. And now it looked at your file name, folder name, and metadata data entries, and it said, well, hey, we found 3 ask tokens. Now, these don't mean very much. So what I'm going to do here is rename them. So I'm going to say this is a subject. You can call this whatever you like. And the second thing I'm going to be capturing, and let's say I had a whole series of different circuit boards, and I'm going to kind of try to classify them here. So its subject is going to be like circuit board, size, large, small, or whatever. And then the third one would be the type. In this case, it's an ESP32. It's an ESP328266. I have some 32s around here somewhere. So, and again, I'm going to just save this profile. Okay, well, let's take a shot here and see what happens. So now the ones I've captured so far, if you look at the IPTC data, there's nothing. Watch what happens when I catch the next one here. And it'll still be nothing because I haven't entered any data yet here. Now you can have spaces here. Because this is a folder name, you'll be restricted by whatever are valid folder characters in Windows. So the size, let's try the size. Size, I'm going to say is small. This is pretty small. And the type is an ESP 82. What is this? 8266. Okay, so now when I shoot, this information is going to be injected into the IPTC, the size and the type, because I put it in the metadata. And the folder name is going to be circuit board because I injected that into folder. Okay, so here we go. Let's shoot it, see what happens. So first thing it did, it created a folder called circuit board. The name of the file is still using the main counter because that's what we had back here. Now we should expect to find something in the description and keywords. The description is small. The keywords, ESP28266. So what you can do is, you could maybe adjust your lighting, whatever. Here, just keep shooting. It's going to keep putting in the same ASC information until you change that ASC information. Now, although I don't have another circuit handy and close by here, I'm just going to say, let's say we put a larger circuit board here. That's an ESP32, which I think physically is larger. Okay, we'll take the shot. We'll wait for the image, and there it is, large ESP32. So this one was still the ESP28266, small. This one was large. So you don't have to change the or save the profile when you change the ASC data. This data here actually is not saved in the profile, but the name you gave this is different. Now, if you ever forget what ASC token that is, you can go rename and it'll remind you. If you ever want to just clear all the data you're looking at here, you just go clear all. So now if you have a whole bunch of things you need to take pictures of, you really can just, set up your live view how you want, set up all your shot parameters here and your paths and your tokens, and really just concentrate on the ASC tab during your data entry, and you could tab between them, capture the images, review them, check the histogram, and if you're really wild and crazy, you can even right-click here on thumbnails, go to configure, and say, show me my IPTC description and IPTC, what was the other one? Keywords. And keywords, by the way, if you have more than one, you can just separate them with semicolons or vertical bars, and that's fine. There you go. Now, sometimes when you are working on these shots, you may want to adjust things here. You want to flip back and forth quickly. So what you can do is go to shortcuts. You'll find there's a cycle ASC tab with current tab. And I'm going to set this to F5. And so now it remembers your last tab. So let's say I come back here off into the body tab to do something. ASC, I could do some data entry here, take a shot. And anytime I can just press F5 and flip back. So if you're more handy and happy using the keyboard, you can do that instead of trying to go up here to find a tab. So that's it. Those really are the changes in the new version. in ControlMyNikon version 5.6.87.90. Be sure to check out the website and the release notes, which talks about some of the bugs that were fixed as well. And give it a test and let us know how it goes. Feel free to add to our community forum, read some notes there and past users, and well, just generally have some fun.